the ad hoc Bluffton Growth Committee to order. And let's do the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the agenda.
So moved.
I guess I have to second.
You don't have to second the charge, just to.
Just approve.
Mhm.
It's only two of us. There's no public comments, I don't think, today, unless Rachel, you have anything?
I'm
else?
okay.
Okay, so, the main crux of today's meeting is to develop the committee scope, come up with a timeline and framework of what we'd like to accomplish, get feedback from Dick and anyone else. We have Carol Crutchfield here from the district. And so I'd like to start that off just by seeking comments of what our committee members and Carol as well, what you see as being a good goal to come out of this committee. Because obviously we're an ad hoc committee, we're not going to be around forever, we have to have a specific goal in mind.
Well, it seems to me that we need to really understand the growth of the Bluffton area, both the type of growth, both commercial, and housing, because it seems to me that there's an indicator, a leading indicator of the type of growth that we see in this county. And the leading indicator to me is the gated communities and the high-end housing areas. It seems that's the boomers and millennials that are retiring and moving here, second home, $400,000, $500,000 and more home, a lot of gated communities, the 55 and older kind of places. That seems to be what comes here first, and then they demand services, and then the service industry comes in second, and that brings in the folks that are in the first-time homeowners, small children, apartment rentals, as they're starting their career, starting their family, and so on. So, and then of course we have the economic situation. We're seeing the end of the bull market. The bears are running, and I was here and I bought my house in 2007, and I saw what happened here in 2008, 2009, 2010, when it stopped, and it really is a concern. It came back, but already realtors are telling me that the demand for those people that are buying their second home or their retirement home is still there. Because the visitors that come, the tourists that come, check in and see things. But what's stopping purchasing is selling up north. Selling in Ohio, they say that's where the real estate market has already gone down. And they can't move until they sell up there to move down here. Same thing that happened to us in 2007, 2008, 2009. So we have permits, and we have developers that are cutting down trees and, have their PUD all set up and everything. And there's a lot of thinking about, planning to do things, but is it really going to happen? And what's the danger of overbuilding for the district? I think that we're going to need another school, and I don't think there's any doubt about that. I know that we can build another school at the May River complex, and so I'm not sure that purchasing land right now, especially if we wait a little bit, land prices may go down like they did in 2008, 2009. It's still kind of high right now. So it seems to me that that's the kind of strategy we've got to look at. What are our options? And what are our tells? And this is something that's, nobody can predict and say, absolutely, this is what's going to happen. So it seems to me that this is something, I know this is an ad hoc committee, but this is something that's going to have to be looked at over time, maybe not every month, but maybe every 6 months or so. And it also seems to me that this committee ought to call in all the stakeholders, call in the mayor, call in the city, call in the county, call in the realtors, call in the attorneys that specialize in real estate,
Closing.
because they're the first people that get contacted off at times. And get our finger on the pulse of when it's going to happen, how much is it going to happen, what type of people are coming in, what are they marketing to. If they're marketing to 55 and older, that's it. The other thing is this committee ought to be looking at is impact fees. Because Northern Beaufort County really is not going to be affected by the impact fees. Who is going to be affected primarily is going to be right here in Bluffton. Because Hilton Head's not going to be that much affected by it either, because they're pretty well built out. But here, Okatee, in that area, that's where the impact fees are going to have a issue. And already we're trying to get a joint meeting with the county council to discuss that. But we should have some input to that based on what we find out from the stakeholders and the growth and everything else, because this may be a big deal or it may not be.
Yeah.
So that's a lot to say, but this is a lot to look at right here.
It is, yeah. I'm going to touch on two things that you mentioned, which was the stakeholder meetings and the impact fees. Because those are two things that I kind of had on my radar as well. The stakeholder meetings, I see us coming up with our scope, our timeline, and framework of what we see as being the most needed things to be accomplished, and also coordinating with those different stakeholders, some joint committee meetings.
Right.
So whether that be us with Bluffton Town Council, us with County Council, maybe just us and the mayor and the town manager.
Sure.
However that, fits in the grand scheme of things, and of course everybody's schedule, I think that those meetings are key, especially when you then go into conversations about impact fees.
Right.
Because understanding how those work in different towns and things, it's my understanding there have been things that have been tried maybe a decade or so ago in Bluffton, but then once they got up to the county level, that it might not have panned out.
Right.
I'm not sure of all the historical knowledge on that, and I'm still trying to dig into it. But there's a lot there, and there's a lot that can be done, and we just have to make sure that we have all the right voices at the table. So I do see those joint committee meetings or with the stakeholders definitely happening. And the discussion of the impact fees is probably definitely going to be forefront, because before we can even talk about building a new school, we have to look at the funding for it.
Right.
So.
Well, we're already committed to $344 million that does not include a new school. So, but we do have an asset. We have the mobiles that will be there and give us some flexibility. But some things like perhaps using 8% money to do a design work on a new school, just like we front-loaded the design work for the construction that's going on right now, so that. What I don't want to do, the one thing we don't want to do is we don't want to build a new school with 8% money. We want to build a school with a follow-on referendum, hopefully, and not using 8%, but using the 8% so we're ready to go when we make this referendum successful and the public says, okay, you guys can do this. We're going to have another referendum because of the growth. And as soon as it goes, we're ready to break ground and start building.
Yeah, And that's what I think this committee is also really important for, is making sure that we're able to put a very clear message out there about the growth. So if we are going forward with a new school, and also I don't want us to lose sight of the possibility of adding on to or up of any of our other schools. I know Robert said at our last meeting, it's not ideal, but if land is going to be an issue and there was a way, I don't know how that works out when you've got kids that are going to be in the schools. I don't know feasibly how it's done. But I think using 8% funds to do a study, or maybe to look into, could we make that happen?
Yeah.
Is important so that we know we've crossed the T's, dotted the I's,
Right.
at least explored it,
Right,
so that we're,
right,
doing due diligence, at least.
yeah.
But it might not be ideal.
The other major issue is, of course, zoning and where kids go to school, and how that gets impacted into this, because already, as you know, we've got all kinds of, I just live right outside the main river, but yet I'm supposed to go now to Beaufort High or Beaufort Middle or whatever, Bluffton High, Bluffton Middle rather. That's gotta be addressed, because that's a real issue. And
Yeah.
we have a lot of kind notes about that. So,
Well, I know, Bluffton Elementary, because we did that whole, basically those new developments and whatnot, and not even a redistricting thing, but just saying, okay, those developments that are new are gonna go here. They've seen a huge influx of kids. I can't even, I know the numbers, we're in the hundreds. I mean, in the last year that we even instituted that, so, which is just crazy.
They gone to Bridgerton,
Yeah,
which is where they would have gone.
exactly, exactly.
So,
Bluffton L could take it at the time, but now when, obviously, it's looking like withstanding that, it's not feasible.
we really need to know too about local government affordable housing initiatives.
Okay, I
Because
can tell you a little bit about Bluffton's, but,
affordable housing initiatives are what's going to drive a lot of our young children. One of the reasons we've seen growth in Burton, in the trailer parks there, is because affordable housing in the Bluffton area is almost all taken up. And so what we're finding out when we talk to parents that are coming in to Broad River is that they were in Bluffton and either got moved out or couldn't find a place, and so they're commuting from Burton out here. So if there's more affordable housing available in the Bluffton area, that may keep those kids over here. And what we're seeing with those kids that we're getting in is they're very volatile in their comings and goings. The turnover at Broad River is unbelievable. The kids come in, 3 months later they're gone, and another group comes in. So it's a constant turnover, and it's all really focused on where they can find housing.
yeah.
So that's going to be a real key. And I've heard Hilton Head has, got some initiatives going on for affordable housing.
Hilton Head does, and then at the Bluffton Strategic Planning meeting, I think you can go back and watch the video on that too. You might want to, that's one of their actual points of consideration. One of their things that they're tackling is affordable housing. It's in their plan, it's what they are focused on. I do think that plays a part too when you go to talking about impact fees and land acquisition as well, because that goes into developer agreements and things like that. So they may have something that's focused on affordable housing in the developer agreement, and then us trying to
And then,
tackle that too.
the business development piece, the job growth, we know that there's not going to be a lot of business development north of the Broad. The business development is going to be in this area here, primarily service industry to service the folks there. So that in itself brings in more school-age kids, because it's the jobs. We're not going to have job growth of CEO level folks. We're going to have job growth of middle managers, job growth of technicians. That's where the job growth is going to be. I is oversubscribed here. All the trades, electricians, plumbers, HVAC, you can't get people in there right away like that because there is more demand for service than there are people to provide it. So that brings in new companies, and they're coming here. They're not going north of the Broad
Yeah.
because this is where the growth
If
is.
they're going anywhere, and I think this is another part of the conversation eventually, probably not right this minute, but Jasper County
Yes.
as well. It
Yes.
plays a key component in the
Yes.
development of their area because they're also fast growing in certain sectors, and their housing market can have a great deal of
And then there's what we've heard, that there are people in Jasper County that are getting an address here in Beaufort County to send their kids to Beaufort County schools rather than Jasper County schools. And I didn't know that was an issue, and found out that it is.
Oh, well, is that
Yeah, and since I was in school.
okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we investigate everyone we
Mhm.
hear
Well,
about.
right.
And a lot of times, it's just rumor, but a lot of, there are times it's true.
That's true.
Right.
So we have to be aware of what Jasper County is, what's going on there as well.
Yeah. So that might be another offshoot that comes out of this, is what we do to make sure that we're controlling that. I'd like to hear from you, Carol, about your input of, what you would like to see come out of this committee for the district to help you guys in your job. What are you guys looking for?
I was gonna just comment on a couple of things. One, talking about the last economic downturn we had, although everything seemed to slow down and stop, Bluffton never stopped growing. And that's something we can take a look at, is what happened back then, because I think it is a good indication of what could potentially happen again in the future. I think involving the town of Bluffton is very important. They have put together for the Community Project Review Committee last year a fantastic presentation on what was going on, and I'm sure they would love to update that and bring that to you all. Mark Orlando and Heather, whose last name escapes me right now, the planning director, did that for us, and they did a great job. Certainly, affordable housing is an issue. One of the things Dr. Rodriguez has asked me to do is become more involved with that topic. So I've already been to a couple of the affordable housing task force that are, everyone has one. I went to town of Bluffton's, I've been to the city of Beaufort's, and I've just kind of alerted other people, hey, I know you've got something, just let me know so I can attend. And so I'm trying to up-ramp a little more on those particular issues. I think for us, what we would like to see is just, we know those issues are there. We know that land is getting more scarce. It's certainly something we need to address. You might be onto something of, wait just a little bit. Certainly, but I think we do have to start at least identifying what some potential areas might be that we would want to even look. Where's the growth? Where would we want to position schools? I think another topic in terms of adding on to schools is how big do you want schools to be? And I think that needs to kind of involve instructional folks. Because when we've looked at this in the past, certainly before we built May River, everyone wanted to expand at Bluffton High School. And then we got a lot of feedback from the instructional folks of too big is not good sometimes.
Yeah.
So there can be that kind of ideal range, and that's something that the board has never really, they've talked about in the past, but no one's ever kind of said, these are the size schools we want. And that might help guide us as to when we would need another school. Are we gonna have 1,000-student elementary schools? Are we gonna have smaller schools? What is the idea? Do we need, and we pretty much in Bluffton, we've got bigger schools because we needed to house the students. Not necessarily because of the instructional value to that. So that may be something you all might take up as just a small piece of this.
I think also with that, going towards involving the instructional department is also involving the community input. I know that was done
Absolutely.
before, but them understanding, you know, what the recommendations, why those recommendations are there because of, you know, there's science behind that and research behind spaces and size and instructional teaching and things like that. So, I think that involving the community in the conversation for whatever down the road, any new school that we do or any add-ons we do, I think that that's really key, especially if we're ever gonna be asking for additional referendum money.
Absolutely.
I think we did a really good job. Frank did a fantastic job, and so did Dr. Berg, in getting the community input, and when we were going through the referendum and now afterwards, I'd like to see that continued, for any kind of, whether it be growth or something else north of the broad that's been alluded to. So I think that engaging the community is key, and Frank's been doing a really good job at that, so.
I think every time we've engaged the community, even back to a closure consolidation, you know, 12 years ago, it's amazing how people understand. You have to, you know, here's the issues,
Sure.
here's the data,
Sure.
you all discuss it, you know, you come up with solutions. They come up with amazing solutions.
In our day and age
And-
now, it's so much easier to get that information out to people
Correct.
too.
Yeah, and then you do build support not only within that committee, but outside in the greater committee.
You know, one of the things that occurs to me also is, of course, from a real estate standpoint, good schools are a selling point.
Sure.
And access to good schools is a selling point.
Mhm.
How far away are you? One of the things that we should probably think about is, in lieu of impact fees from a developer, perhaps giving land to the school district to say, okay, I want to have a big subdivision out here, and wouldn't it be nice if there was a school right there? And oh, by the way, because I'm going to sell this, I'll give this in lieu of impact fees. I will give this land to the school district as a future school construction site. That's the kind of conversations we need to have, is all kinds of, think a little outside the box and start looking at a good strategic plan down the way. Now, the problem is nobody knows for sure how much growth is going to be, what type of growth they're going to have. One of the differences between 2007, 2008 and now is in 2005, 6, 7, we had huge growth of the high end. Habersham, Battery Point, Battery Shores, Battery Shores was there before, and that kept that service demand going, even though it was a downtime for the economy. The service requirements didn't go away.
Right.
And that's what brought in the younger folks with their kids. One of the things that I would love to see is a study of how many of the upscale permits, not just the permits for the subdivision, but how many of them are the Shadow Moss $200,000,
Yeah.
$300,000 home, and how many of them are the 500,000+ homes? So that will give us an indication.
I think the town breaks their data.
I think you do.
The county's not, theirs is much more
Yeah.
difficult to get
Yeah.
your hands on, but the
Yeah.
town of Bluffton does a really good
Right.
job.
Right.
But not everything in Bluffton is in the town of Bluffton, so yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Getting that data,
Right.
consolidating
Right.
it could be a challenge, but we can work on it.
I think going to what you said, Dick, about the land donation in lieu of impact fees, I think that's gonna be an extremely important conversation that we have with the town of Bluffton. I mentioned earlier, Carol and I gave the packet to Frank as well, but at their strategic planning meeting, they had a map of all of the town-owned land, as well as all of the development agreements and the developments. It was a map view, right? Because you could really get an eagle-eye view of, okay, here's where we have a school, here's a development coming in, and you can get an idea of that. I think the one issue that would come into play there is the stage in those agreements. because adding on, sometimes you can ask for it,
Sure.
but they're not held to anything.
Right.
But if we get into a conversation with the town of Bluffton about future things that are coming down, future developments that come into play, number one, the ones that are existing, see where we could fall in line there, but also future ones to make it something that's partially a requirement.
Yeah.
I don't know though what that looks like. We may have to involve their attorney, even in that conversation, to see what legally they can do with their agreements.
There's another issue that we need to look at, and that is the impact of 388. Where growth is in family homes, they don't get taxed for operations. And I don't know of any tourist-oriented subdivisions or resort-oriented things going on in the Bluffton area that would bring in 8 or 6% money. And that's where we're gonna have a problem coming up, and as the numbers of 6% decline, numbers of 4% increase, because that's our operation. So it's not only the millage capability for debt servicing, which 4% people pay, but there's also a corresponding increase in operational costs because of more students, more teachers, more salary, more utilities, and so on. And our pool is shrinking of 6%. And so the 388 issue has got to be addressed when we talk about this growth here.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a problem.
I know Tanya had said that they had looked into that, and I think they have some numbers on the impact that it's had to the district, but I'd like to get that information for Bluffton specific.
Yes.
Because you
Yes.
could look at that compared to the entire district
Yes.
and see,
Yes.
does this make sense?
Yes.
And how big is the impact?
We're not going to change 388.
Right.
That's not going to happen.
Which-
But we're going to have to look at making sure that the state support, which is, we don't get the state support that the rest of the state gets because we're rich and because we have that 6%. But if our 6% percentage is falling, we're going to need to go to the state. But we have to have data
Yeah.
to show them that, so that they understand that we're not all wealthy folks who live on Hilton Head. So that's,
Yeah, I think showing that impact to our state
Yep.
representatives, it's all connected. It all goes to our legislative agenda, and if they have numbers and they have data, they can argue much more efficiently.
Sure.
So I'd love to get some of that info. So, let's see, timeline-wise. Obviously, it has a lot to do with the timeline for other people and their schedules and getting joint meetings coordinated and whatnot.
right.
I'd be happy to begin the conversations with Bluffton Town Council to see that. I think that's probably the most logical first place to start. I don't know if we'd be able to get the whole town council together, or maybe just initially the mayor, their officers, and the town manager. But I'll see, I guess, who all I can get to come to the table, and what days though is best for you, Dick?
I'm pretty open.
Pretty open. What days are best for us?
Let's start with your schedule.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Start with
I am.
You have, it's
Tuesdays and Thursdays generally in the morning are great for me.
Okay.
fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Tuesdays and Thursdays for the board in the mornings are good,
Okay,
so
okay. So I'll just throw out there that is a general thing to that.
let's stay away from board meeting days though,
Yeah.
which would be the first and the third Tuesday of each month.
Okay, so I'll try to set up a joint initial meeting, with Bluffton Town Council for a Tuesday or Thursday AM.
Perhaps the county representative, county council representative, see,
From Bluffton?
from Bluffton. might be there. Because I'm not sure where the city limits of Bluffton are and where they end.
It's kind of go down that hole.
It's the last, the whole thing.
And then there's down that hole.
Is May
Lots of
River,
places.
the city limits of Bluffton?
Yes.
I can certainly also, I mean, we don't have to all talk in individual groups. I can reach out to all of them and just tell them, you know, we're having this
Sure.
first initial meeting.
Absolutely.
But really focus on that Bluffton Town Council and then also send it to the county council representatives for Bluffton. I know they just had a changeover in leadership. So I would invite their new chair as well. I believe. Okay, what do you think about me working up a scope based on my notes here and shooting it over via email for you to look at? And then we have our meeting on Tuesday, and I could present that in my,
Committee.
in my committee report.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll shoot that over.
Oh, sounds good.
Yeah, just kind of based on our conversation, though, just to recap, one of our goals is to understand the growth, both in the commercial and housing markets, the discussion of another school or additions, and recommendations that may come from that. Land acquisition, if needed for another school. Stakeholder meetings, impact fees and affordable housing. And then, impact fee, not impact fees, 388's impact on Bluffton specifically, and going back to, the other school or the additions, how big we want that to be, what we want that to look like as a community and as a district. So those are just
Yeah.
some, but I'll make it sound, some bullets. I'll do some bullets for info. What about future topics? Is there anything else that we didn't talk about today, or something we did talk about today that we maybe need to dive into deeper on our own at a future conversation?
I think an engineering talk about the possibilities of building up at schools is, I have very grave doubts that schools that are designed for one story can be lifted up and put another top. But I'd like to hear from, somebody with some engineering background. And we've got a guy with really good engineering background on our committee, this oversight committee, the clock.
Uh-huh.
What's his name, Ted Bartlett.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And there's the kind of guy that he could come in and tell you, what the challenges are of that type of construction because of his tremendous experience.
I wonder if there's some type of facilities study that can be done at our Bluffton schools. I don't know what the potential cost of that would be, but having a facility study done that looks at the capability, what we're even capable of.
Yeah, before we do that, I talked to him and said,
Yeah.
if he says there's no way, then we don't need to spend the money. But if he says yes, you can if you
Yeah.
do the following.
Because I know there's not space to go out at a lot of areas,
No.
but there
There
might
is-
be
sure.
some to go.
Some are, some
Some
aren't.
are, yeah.
And the other thing is not just can you do it, but what about the other things there? Can the cafeteria handle more
Right.
students?
Right,
What would that involve? So it
right. It's
starts multiplying once you start getting,
Handicap
Above that.
access elevators now.
Yeah.
Correct.
It is.
There is some things that we have to look at.
there's at some point would it just be,
Yeah, because just like they said with, what was it, Robert Smalls, tearing it down and rebuilding it was gonna cost just as much as renovating it. So, I mean, if we look at, and that's why I wanna make sure that we're doing a comprehensive look at what our options are,
Right,
because if it's going to cost more to build up, or it's going to be too cumbersome, it's gonna displace students and overwhelm other schools, those are all considerations that we need to be looking at. So, for our future topics, and then I'll add on an engineering discussion with regard to adding on to any of our existing Bluffton schools, and make sure that we reach out to Ted and Robert would
Oh,
be a
sure.
great person to come here too and
Oh,
give his
absolutely.
input. So if he can make that
Absolutely.
meeting, that would be great. Carol,
No, I think that is a lot to cover.
That is a big discussion.
I was gonna ask, is there anything that you want from me or us, in our department?
Your expertise and your data.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, data we have, and I wrote down to start looking at permit data about price of home, both in the town of Bluffton and the county, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'll reach out to Tanya also, we'll put on that 388, I mean, she might be pretty busy right now, the budget, but if she has data related to 388 that she could give us at least for the district overview, we can start there and discuss it and then move on to Bluffton.
When we have our initial kind of results, I strongly recommend that we have an open forum, a town hall, invite the advocacy groups, invite parents, SICs, and so on, and getting their feedback as to what they think.
Yeah,
Just to keep, now we're not ready to do that now.
no, but I think at the end of the
But
road.
when we have that initial data,
Mhm.
so we can make sure they feel like they're part of the process, that,
If you want people to come, you say reason, they'll show up.
yeah.
So,
Yes,
we might want to
Yeah.
save that one for towards the end,
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
get the other
that's
things
right.
first, and then,
Yeah, no, I would like to do all of the stuff that we discussed, and that's gonna be in our scope. I think at the end of all of this, after we've had some good meetings and whatnot, bringing in the community and getting their input on things and also presenting this information to them is gonna be important.
Well, one of the other things that's gonna come up is about the need to consolidate north of the Broad. And that's an ancillary thing, and it's something that we're going to have to address in another, perhaps, standalone committee to set up that, because we're going to have to start that conversation, because that is going to be the driver on the second referendum.
I think financially too, it ties into the conversation if you're talking about closures of any schools over there. You've obviously got land that's either going to sit or be sold,
Right.
and that's funds that can go towards other district pots,
Well-
but that's not a fun conversation to have, but it is one that,
But what our public doesn't understand is, if you look at our capacities north of the Broad, there's no school that can be shut down and moved in today. They're over 50%, so when you have over 50%, you can't put 110% in one school. And they also don't understand that, for example, Ladies Island Middle School, it looks like you could take Ladies Island Elementary and just plug it in. No, you can't, because there's restroom requirements for the kindergarten,
That's
first
right,
grade,
there's
second grade. So there's not those restrooms there. That's just one of the issues. And, we got a lot of criticism about why this first referendum didn't address that. And my response was, well, we gotta take care of overcrowding first. We gotta get kids in seats in schools and out of mobiles. Then we gotta go back and look at our overcapacity north of the Broad. And the other thing that we have to look at, and some of it might apply to Bluffton as well, but I'm really concerned about student-faculty ratios. And the state has a goal that they've written down, that if you're a school in poverty, your student-faculty ratio should be 16:1. Well, that expands the number of classrooms that you need, as well as number of teachers, of course. And I don't know that any of Bluffton schools are do we have any Title I schools in Bluffton?
Who's Title I? If anybody,
It's
it's MC Riley.
MC Riley maybe.
I think MC Riley.
They might have
MC
hit
Riley.
that mark now.
I think Bluffton and MC Riley are our Title
Our
I
Title I schools. But see, that's
Red
another,
Cedar, did they hit that mark too?
Red Cedar might be as well.
Yeah, I'll have to
No.
look at that, off the top of my head, I can't tell you,
Yeah.
yeah.
but that's another down the
But
road.
I know MC Riley and
well, and
I
that's,
pulled that, didn't
when you guys at one of our last meetings, I was really excited when you said that you were talking with, Mary Stratos and involving her more in the conversations
Yes.
because,
Yes,
and Carol, I know that you're already involved and have been to ed markets and ed spaces and things like that, but flexible learning environments and the ability to use those spaces effectively is something that's, you know, a booming thing right now. Lots of schools are trying to figure out how to make that work, so, that's really important.
And I think that's one of the things we want to accomplish with some of the renovations. So if you're, we're doing major renovations at Battery Creek, and they certainly have some extra capacity. And we're in expanding their K programs, there's opportunities to, take 2 smaller classrooms and consolidate that and make one bigger kind of area for flexible learning situations, for expanding, career and tech programs, like, business systems or whatever it is they're offering. I don't quote them, so I don't know exactly what they're expanding there, but you understand, the concept's what I'm talking about.
right.
And in turn, that lowers that capacity number because, right,
Special ed does the
Right.
same,
Yeah.
special ed does the same thing.
right. Special ed certainly does the same thing. And there has been some growth in the special needs students
And
this
ESOL
year.
is
So
also,
we've been working closely with them to try to figure out what spaces, and certainly in Bluffton, that's gonna be a bigger and bigger challenge, because a lot of their instructional needs now
right,
sort of require
right.
those extra sensory rooms, or those spaces for physical and occupational therapy that we don't really have here. It's gonna be more of a challenge.
Yeah,
So,
I
I think special ed probably needs to be a part of that overall topic
yeah.
with space in Bluffton as well.
Yep.
Special ed and ESOL,
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
considerations.
Right.
One of the things that when you were talking about zoning and looking at space, one of the issues of crossing the bridge. So when you were like moving to Okatee, and if you moved,
yeah.
that is a topic of conversation, or do you not cross that bridge and keep everybody on?
I think the
Because that was-
logistics of it, the busing, it was
The same amount of time.
We've looked at, I've been here since 2007, we've
Yeah.
looked at that issue 3 times, I think.
Yes, we have, at
Yes.
least 3 or 4.
And every time the board and the community come to the same conclusion,
Right.
we're not gonna cross the bridge, so at some point, you as a board may wanna just kinda say
Say
that, we're not gonna cross the bridge,
Yeah.
yeah.
The loss of flexibility, just, if the bridge goes down, you have to go I-95 up to Youngstown,
so that's just a-
around, so I mean, it's just not, it's not a good plan for any school to even have.
And the other thing is, it's not like there's a large cluster of students
No.
right there on this side of the Broad River Bridge, they're not. You're Okatee's attendance zone comes way into Bluffton
Right,
to get a lot of their students.
right,
And so you're coming all the way into Bluffton to then take students all the way to Broad River.
right.
Yeah.
And really, Broad River, they don't really have a lot of room to add extra students right now. So at one point in time, they had more room,
Yeah, they
but
did.
like
You were
you
talking
said,
about Battery Creek
people
High
are
School.
starting to migrate back over that bridge,
Right.
so, yeah.
Right. But, the other piece is that schools are part of the community, and the community revolves, especially north of Broad and Whale Branch and St. Helena. Those schools are the community of Whale Branch and St. Helena, and they may be under capacity, but
Still community.
if you close those schools down, that community
Oh, no.
has a loss that cannot be refilled. And so there's a community requirement as well to how things are set up. When you look at it, when an outsider looks at our capacity and they say, well, this is not efficient. Well, there's more than just
Numbers.
efficiency
Right.
that has to be considered. And we just have to make sure that we can address that with our critics, and so that, tell them the rest of the story, so to speak. and get them out there. One of the things that we really haven't done is we really haven't had enough. The committee that Dr. Burr set up was an eye-opener for an awful lot of people. The more people we can get into our schools on a daily basis to see what's going on and how they're trying to cope with, especially River and River Ridge, but also Red Cedar and others, they can see what's going on there. Then all of a sudden it kind of clicks, okay, now I understand. And it's not just a statistic and a graph,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So that community involvement is so important. Not just the parents, but also our advocacy groups that are sending us emails every day.
They don't have children in the schools. Those who don't have children in the schools need to come to the schools
Yes.
and take a look at what is actually going on here.
Yes.
And again, and understanding the instructional needs.
Right,
because that is huge.
We're here
To-
to teach kids.
Right, right.
This is important work. This is really, really important.
And I think it's difficult to cover as much as we just talked about that's gonna be in our scope at a full board
I
meeting.
understand.
So,
I understand.
that's the purpose for us, and I'm excited for the work that we're gonna, try to accomplish. Okay, so then with regard to future meeting dates, I'm going to, basically I'll coordinate with you to find the best options. I'm gonna probably give town council, Bluffton Town Council a few options, see what works for them, and then I'll shoot that also over to you. If Tuesdays and Thursday mornings are generally good for you.
And this location is probably the best location.
Yeah.
I think we'll get the most participation from this community here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any dates that do not work for you, Dick, in the future? Okay. Fantastic. Then, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah. So, we're adjourned.